Assalamu alaikum. I am Tahir, Jawad, lecturer Department of Computer Science, Allama Iqbal Open University. We are going to discuss a course on database systems. In today's topic, we will discuss about introduction to databases. What is it and its types, its model, its introduction to usage. What is database? Database is basically an organized collection of logically related data, logically related objects. What we can say logically related means, for example, we are going to store data about student, so relevant things are logically related to students. When we are talking about a course, different things, course code, description, these are logically related to course. So what is data? Data is basically stored representation of meaningful events and objects and elements. For example, we are saying about student name is data, student age is data, student address is data. So these are all are relevant things towards student. Data can be structured and can be unstructured. Structured mean in any format. The structured data types are numbers, text and dates, etc. And unstructured data means those things which are we are unable to format or sequence, can put in sequence. These are images, videos, documents. These all are unstructured data. Example of simple database. So for example, we are going to present a database relevant to a university. There are multiple students, there are multiple courses, in classes there are sections, there is a grade report. So these all are entities or tables. So their attributes are course name, course number, credit hours, departments. When we are talking about a section, there should be a section identifier, for example section A, section B, section 1, section N. So there is a course code, a specific semester, an year, the name of instructor. So these all are called attributes. So that's a simple view of database. What is, there are some relevant terms we should know about them before moving towards. First of all, information. Information is basically a processed data that can increase the user knowledge. The second most important thing is metadata. Metadata is basically the data that explains other data. In a table, there are some headings, for example name, for example age, for example ID. These describes the data having in that column. So these are called metadata. Data is basically refers to raw unorganized facts and figures, while information is processed and meaningful information that's in organized form and in structured form and having context and meaning. Data may be having meaning or may not, but information must be having a meaning and context. Data in context. Without context, data has little meaning. But when for example we can say we consider a temperature reading of 37. Is it Fahrenheit or Celsius? Context allow us to represent and act on these data. There are traditional file processing systems before the invention of databases. These file systems having different problems of redundancy, inconsistency. In these files, data was stored in isolated files for each application. These systems were limited and prone to redundancy, inconsistency and program independence. The multiple problems are data duplication, lack of data sharing, and excessive maintenance needs. These leads to inefficiencies. The developers, the programmers had to manage these things, format, access, integrity, all these manually, and their work increases day by day. Every program had to define and manage its own data access. There was no shared structure. The format or standardization is a difficult task. For example, in a file-based system, in the example shown, in a file-based system, each department, for example, academic department, finance department, for example, hostel department, they have maintain separate files for student data. They repeatedly stored Ali's information, Sarah's information, XYZ students information repeatedly. That's maybe their spelling mistakes, address mistakes, IDs mistakes can be there. So if we want to correct them, then we should correct at each place, we should update at each place. That's basically a tough task for a user to do so. The solution of all these problems is the database approach. In database approach, a centralized system solves these problems by providing a single source of truth that's maintained by a database management system. For example, there is a library, manual library versus a digital library. In manual library, imagine a physical library where each department keeps its own separate catalog of books. The same book, for example, information and communication technology, is listed in multiple catalogs with slight variations, maybe different spelling, different author name. If the book is moved or updated, only one catalog gets corrected while others were stay wrong. So we need to update at each place. That's a lengthy task. So in the case of database, we perform all these tasks at one point. File system is basically having redundancy problem, means if we want to insert data, we should keep record at multiple places. When we want to update this data, we have to update at each point, and if we want to delete this data, so we must delete at every location. Data maybe there may be some inconsistencies in this data. We should update at each place. So maybe name Sarah's spelling mistake, so we correct at one place, maybe one place it's correct and the other place it's wrong. Data must be updated at each place, may be inconsistent. That's also wasted our effort and space. Storing the same data in multiple places and updating this also waste our efforts. However, in the case of digital library, we are using database system that centralized, it's efficient. Now imagine modern digital library like Google Books. A single database stores all the books details, its title, its author, its location. For example, author name is not correct. We update at one place, it's automatically updated at all the locations. Every department access the same record in real time. So the updation are consistent. If a book is updated, for example, new edition, everyone sees the change instantly. Its advantage are no duplicate. Each book exists once in the system. If we are going to delete, we delete it at one place. The instant updates, no outdated or conflicting records, means update if we are going to enter a record, we enter it at one, all people can access it directly. It's also space saving. No physical copies of catalogs needed. What is database management system? Database management system, or DBMS, is like an operating system. We are using a software for creating and managing database. These softwares are called database management systems. Some examples are SQL Server, Oracle, Firebase, and multiple more. Some databases are open source, some we use or needs licenses. So the core responsibility of database management system are managing databases and its creation. Database management system is one software that manages multiple applications. Application mean we are creating one database for library management system, one database, for example, for student enrollment system, one database for teachers management system. So all these are applications. All these applications are created and managed by a single database management system. These management systems are used for different applications. For some big applications, for example, enterprise applications, some for small personal applications, for example, a small store, a software for small store, for small school, etc. There are some costs and risks of a database approach. Like any technology, DBMS has trade-offs between setup cost, conversion efforts, and backup requirements. So, for example, we are going to implement from manual file system to a database approach. So, there must be some cost of software and hardware. So, there must be need some conversion efforts, and at second place, at the other side, we should need some technical efforts, technical personals. So, we prioritize how much need of backup requirements and how much we can spend on these. There are some components of database environment. These are case tools. Case tools are basically those software that we are using for generation and maintaining, for creation and maintaining of database. The second one is repository. A repository is basically storehouse of metadata. That's a database of metadata. We use different metadatas in our database. These are stored in repository. DBMS, we already said, that's a software for managing and creation of databases. Database is basically the storehouse of a database. That's a managed storehouse. The application program means software that is using the data. Application program, for example, we are using our database through a website. So, that website is an application program. Then the user interface. User interface is where user use the database. That can be a textual environment and can be a graphical environment. The database administrators are those personnel that's responsible for maintaining the database. The system developers are the personnel that are responsible for designing, developing the database. The database is first developed and then used or maintained by database administrators. The end user, all those people who use the applications and databases. That's, for example, a student is using the Allama Iqbal Open University database through its website. That's an end user. The system developers are those people who develop this database and the Allama Iqbal Open University website. The database administrators are those people who are maintaining these databases. the project stakeholders. Project mean all those people involved in developing a database. Developing a database involves multiple stakeholders. For example, system analysts, users, database architects, developers and managers. Who are analysts? Analysts are basically those people who analyzes the requirements of an organization for creation of databases. The users are those personas who uses the databases, these are basically end users. And database architects are those that's designing the database on the analysis of analysts. The developers, those personas who develops applications, websites or forms, and managers are those who manage the resources of databases. Database administrator manages backups, and designer creates the design. We in the case of database, we design databases through entity relationship diagrams. Entities are basically the tables. The entities are those elements about which we are going to store the data. For example, in a above example, students are entities. So teachers are entities. The university administration is basically entity. So all these are entities. About these things we are going to store data. So end users uses the applications through different interfaces. Now what is data model? Data model is a collection of concepts for describing data. Data model is basically a concept through which we are going to elaborate or describe the structure of our database. What is a schema? Schema is a description of a particular collection of data using the given data model. For example, we are going to discuss only those things those are relevant to students. So we in that schema we show student and its relevant or attached entities. Then the relational model of data is the most widely used model today. In relational model, we store data in the form of tables. These tables are basically entities. The table headings are attributes of these entities. The data model main concept is a relation. Relation is basically a table with rows and columns. So we can say them relations as in Excel we are using two sides address. Exactly in the data model concept, relations are also the relation between rows and columns. Every relation has a schema which describes the column or fields, and there are two other things which are records. Records are basically the information given relevant to a specific instance. That's the end of this unit. So in the next unit we will discuss the database environment. Thank you.